I ran across this footage today somebody sent me, and I'm still trying to wrap my head fully around it. I can't tell if it's an explosion from where it hit the back of the building or what. I have to mute the audio though. Sorry, I have to mute the audio at a certain point because it starts playing some music that's going to, just end up in a copyright issue as always. So you watch this and tell me, because I'm not sure, man. I'm a little befuddled by looking at this.
Try to get a better vantage point and see what we can see on the ground. It's a little difficult from the air because the buildings kind of shadow the streets, but no doubt a lot of activity on the ground right now.
And in terms of the firefighting capabilities, when you get up to this high level, I assume the firefighters have got to get up there and, fight it from inside. Oh. If you're taking a look now, you can see that we've just had another explosion, and that is considerably lower. And is that in the other
Where was
building?
the airplane?
Is that what I'm witnessing?
That apparently does look like it is in the other building.
Of the firefighting capabilities, when you get up to this high level, I assume the firefighters have got to get up there and, fight it from inside. Oh. If you're taking a look now, you can see that we've just had another explosion, and that is considerably lower. And is that in the other building? Is that what I'm witnessing?
That apparently does look like it is in the other building.
All right, so the rest of this is just a bunch of music. So I'm going to cut the audio on it because there's text to put here. But this was a little confusing when I saw this today, that this found footage or whatever, but I didn't see that airplane that we've seen in this video 9 bazillion times, and I remember seeing it myself on the news when I was watching CNN when this happened. Yeah, like the question I have is that the effect from the plane hitting the other side of the building? I just don't know, but I still don't see any plane from any direction. I don't see a plane over here. I don't see a plane over here. That's... I mean, I'm a little befuddled. You know what? I guess someday we'll get to this. I guess someday this will all come out. I just hope. The hell is freaking going on? Anyway, we have a laundry list of stuff to run here. And it's also, it's Potluck Friday. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've added in here. It's been a busy couple of days. Hopefully tomorrow, we're going to have some live streamings from some of these events. I've had all of 2 people, step up to go help us get some live broadcasts from these protest events tomorrow all over the country. Stand up for freedom and all that. Always a little disconcerting when I see nobody stepping up to the plate, but hopefully they will. Unfortunately, stepping up to the plate at the last minute is really difficult for me because, there's a certain amount of testing that needs to be done to make sure that, the person at the other end understands how this is done. But if you plan on going to one of the events, you need a lot. You need a smartphone that you can put a Skype app on with a camera, and add that Skype. Add that Skype number right there. All right. I take care of everything else back here at the studio. It makes it pretty easy for anybody out there. All you gotta do is call me on Skype and turn your damn camera on and point it at something instead of having to figure out software and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, here we go. This is Off with the Grab Bag. We're going to do some of these things, and then we're going to go into some prepping, canning, food preservation from there, and off we go. Please enjoy. If not, I don't know. Go have a drink. Whatever.
So I have a rebroadcast every Thursday at 7:30 a.m., Saturday 9 a.m., and Sunday 2 p.m. You can also view our shows on YouTube by searching the YouTube search box and type in Inform New Hampshire. If you like what you hear, we ask that you click the icon, the thumbs up button, and if you're willing to, please subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to contact us via email, and we would ask in particular any judges or police officers, if you have questions about things we say, please contact us by email at informnh@hushmail.com. That's informnh@hushmail.com. For those of you who missed our last week's show, we talked about the National Liberty Alliance and how the use of the common law grand juries is a legal and lawful solution to America's problems. National Liberty Alliance has reconstituted the common law grand juries in all 2,133, is it, Richie?
Yes.
2,133 counties in the states united. Richie and I are state coordinators for the National Liberty Alliance, and we hold weekly meetings right here in Manchester. Anyone is welcome. Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. You can find more details on that at nationallibertyalliance.org, or you can email us at informnh@hushmail.com. Richie and I are committed to sharing news and information that you won't find on the mainstream media. We believe our country is in deep peril, and we're here to shed some light on the corruption and the fraud and some of the historical events that brought us to this place, as well as some of the solutions as we see it. So today's show is about the Constitution. Keep a pen and paper handy. You may want to jot down some research information during the show. So, Richie, how do you want to start this off?
Well, I'll start by saying that even though the show is about the Constitution, it's more about the ignorance of the American people. And I'm including myself in that, by the way. Most of my life was I was ignorant of the United States Constitution. It's only been the past 5 or 6 years I've been studying this. Been studying it greatly. I've been spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week for the past 4 or 5 years. Not necessarily studying this, but a lot of different things. The ignorance of the people is what brings this country to its knees, and we're on our knees right now. If you stay with us long enough, and please don't leave because I said ignorant, we'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. okay, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed with that. There was all types of evidence. The legislature, and I'm generalizing, by the way.
Oh, real fast. You can go out and Google the articles and find them, but they're starting to go after the Sugar Pine Mine guys now. They're also going after that Ride for Freedom thing. I can't remember. I think it was in Montana, but I'm probably wrong on that. That occurred over the summer. One of the bloggers was actually convicted over stuff he said on his own blog. So now freedom of the press. Yeah, currently freedom of the press is now out the window. Freedom of assembly is out the window. Freedom to protest is out the window. They're working very hard on getting rid of freedom to own or bear firearms. And this weekend in Texas, they're doing this giant roundup. They're actually calling it the Texas Roundup, in which they're going to be out statewide in great force and number, arresting anybody that has a citation or missed a court date or owes a debt to the state or federal government in any way. And they're going to be arresting all those people this weekend. They've even announced it. So, it's really, it really is. It's starting now. They're pulling out all the stops. They were emboldened because they got away with murdering a peaceful and innocent man and putting a bunch of people in prison. Political prisoners, as far as I'm concerned, are all in prison as well. So they're emboldened. They got their ass handed to them in Las Vegas or down in Nevada a couple of years ago and didn't know what to do. So now they got everybody on the run. So take it on the run, baby. Anyway, so, I just hope everybody doesn't, freak out, chicken out, and lose their principles, or this is all kind of a lost cause, which is kind of what they want this to do anyway. If there's an opportunity for you to be arrested tomorrow because you were at Bundy Ranch or something, I would personally advise avoiding these protests, because they're going to be watching these protests looking for those people to arrest them as well. This isn't over, and the police state is here in full force. Guys. So, I would have just advise, watch your six and be careful, but don't lose your principles here, folks, because if you lose your principles here and go and hide because the government did the great smackdown and now they're doing the roundup, well, then they win and it's over. And as Gavin Seam said, Seam or Syme, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. As he said this morning, this isn't a sinking ship. This ship has already sunk. So we're all kind of paddling around in life preservers right now in freezing water, hoping we'll get through the day. So the big giant call is to the patriots to actually step up. And it's amazing how few people would step up to go to all of the events this weekend. And if not live stream, at least record and then get me that video later so that we can show people across the United States that this is not all forgotten. Because with every passing day, I'm still doing this. I'm still covering this. I'm still watching this. With every passing day, I see all the people that were covering this, because it was getting them 100,000 hits, etc. And now just kind of, they don't care. It's not getting them hits anymore, so they're not doing it. But I'm staying the course, and I will continue to stay the course. I hope people understand that. My audience, quite honestly, my audience has decreased to almost damn nothing. But, hopefully it will regenerate itself at some later date. But you know, when you go from an average of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 listeners on a video because somebody thinks somebody's going to die or there's going to be some blood, and now we're down to 30 or 40 on average. You know, you can see the true mentality of this nation on a whole, in my opinion. There are so few people that really give a damn about any of this or anything or their freedoms or their liberties, that it makes it really hard for us that are trying to protect not only our own liberties but all the idiots too, to do what we're trying to do. And now they're trying to put us all in jail just for speaking or typing in our blogs and stuff like that. So, you know, it's getting a little bit frightening, and they've kind of pulled out all the stops now. I mean, it is pedal to the metal. So, you know, what is coming? What is coming down the road that has turned this into, you know, full metal screw you from the U.S. government and all its 3-letter agencies? What has put this into full metal attack? Because we're seeing this going from, you know, a little bit to all of a sudden just arrest everybody. If they won't be arrested, just kill them. Just, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's freaky and disconcerting at the same time, and a lot of it makes no sense. You know, when you measure what happened in Oregon or what happened in Bunkerville, when you measure that against what happened in Baltimore and what happened in Ferguson, none of this measures up correctly, in my opinion. It doesn't even make good sense. So, anyway, I'll continue this video while I think some more, but I'm still a little upset and very concerned about what's going down.
This doesn't include everybody, but the legislature, the law enforcement community, and the general public are ignorant of this document. And this document is the foundation of America. It's what made this country great. It's what's being buried by our judicial system, our corrupt judicial system, and our legislature, and the executive branch. And we'll demonstrate over the next 15, 20 minutes what I'm talking about. The first thing I'd like to start off with, though, is so that everybody has a full understanding. Sometimes you give people a book and they put it in their back pocket, or they go home and throw it on their desk. The problem with that is this doesn't give you bragging rights. You have to read it and understand it, and you'll find out why in the next few minutes. I would like to ask Dean to read. He's got the better eyesight of the two of us, so he gets stuck reading. He graciously volunteered to do that. But Article 6, paragraph 2 and 3, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So, Dean?
This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
Okay, and I guess the biggest point that I want
Senators
to
and
make
representatives
there
before
is the
mentioned,
Constitution
and the members of the
is the
several
supreme
state
law of the
legislatures,
land. There is no
and
law
all
bigger, more powerful, or better, or whatever you want to look at it, than this. This is it. It's the ultimate. Every law that's made has to be in compliance with it. There are supporting laws to demonstrate that. Marbury versus Madison. Let me see. I'm sorry, Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. There's several, and I'm not going to go through an entire list, but those are two in particular. It also says in here, as Dean read, it's in the other laws and the treaties have to be in pursuance of the Constitution. They can't violate this book. Now, here's the thing that's very, very important, and I think all the listeners have to understand. This book in the preamble, and I'll read that very quickly. I won't read it, I'll recite it because I know it from memory, but we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. A lot of people will read the Constitution, they don't read that. The problem is, we the people wrote this book. Now, I understand it wasn't me and you, okay? But we are the stewards of this document right now. The founders or the framers or whatever you want to refer to them, they're deceased. I'm sure in their grave they're saying, Jesus, please take care of this book. That's our obligation to do that. With that in mind, I'd like to say that if you don't read this book, you don't have bragging rights to it. You know, putting it on your table, putting it in your pocket is no different than not owning one. Please read it. It's your book. We the people wrote this law, and it is the law, the supreme law of the land, for the government to obey. And I'll demonstrate. Actually, before I go into demonstrating any of that, Dean was also going to read Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Constitution. I'm sorry, he wasn't going to read Articles 1, 2, and 3. Articles 1, 2, and 3 deal with the legislature, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. What he was going to read to illustrate a very, very important point is Article 1, Section 8, which is 18 enumerated powers that we, the people, granted to our servant government. And then after he reads that, and please pay close attention to the words, we can discuss it, and I'll tell you how our government is way out of control and how it's our fault that that has happened.
Before I read that, Richie, let me just read you this quote by Thomas Jefferson, because you were mentioning how important it is to read the Constitution and be aware of what it says. And if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. And what he means by that, and I know you've given some great examples, Richie, of how if you don't know one of your rights, how would you ever know to protect it? And your rights can never be protected if you don't know what they are. You would not be capable of standing up for them. So, Section 8, the enumerated powers that the Constitution provides for the federal government. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Isn't that interesting? Because I think we have a graduated tax system here, right?
I think so.
All right. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, that's number 2. Number 3, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Number 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Number 5, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. So, who makes our money?
Last time I checked, it was Federal Reserve.
Who is
privately owned bank?
Who is the Federal Reserve, Richie?
Privately owned bank, yeah.
A for-profit, privately owned corporation run by international banking families. That's who owns our monetary system. We'll get into that in a future show. To number 6, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting and the securities and current coin of the United States. Number 7, to establish post offices and post roads. Number 8, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Number 9, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Can you tell us what that means, Richie? To constitute tribunals?
It means they have the ability to make courts or initiate courts, but within certain guidelines. And they're not doing that.
Traditionally speaking, when you go to court, you really are going to a tribunal, and it needs to be with your peers' presence, and that's why we have jury of our peers, because you're there for a show to see who's right or wrong and who has committed a crime. Number 10, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the laws of a nation. Number 11, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. Number 12, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money that shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So what that's saying is that this country was founded on the principle of not having a standing army, which we do have, obviously. Number 13, to provide and maintain a navy. Number 14, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. And number 15, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Number 16, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Number 17, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. So that's basically saying that they created, well, it's an example. As an example, they created the 10-mile square seat of government known as District of Columbia, to which Maryland and Virginia seceded some of their land to do so. Number 18, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or office thereof. And that is it.
Okay, if I can take over.
Yep.
For a few minutes anyway. The Constitution is basic. Well, the Constitution today is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The Constitution contains 7 articles, only 7. And the Bill of Rights is the first through the 10th amendments. But one of the things I've asked people before, do you know what common law is? And every one of them said, no, I have no idea. I had one gentleman tell me, yeah, I know what it is, but most people don't know, and I think he was obviously trying to take a little heat off himself. Common law is the Constitution. And to put it in perspective, we the people wrote this. Like I said before, it was James Madison is the father of the Constitution, so I know I didn't write it or you wrote it, but we're the stewards of this document now. We are the people here today. If we the people wrote it, it's for the government to obey. So under us is the Constitution. We are above the Constitution because we gave that document, this document, to the government to obey. Don't violate these laws. Well, the only thing that's above us is God. And if you don't believe in God, then call it nature. I'll call it anything you'd like. It doesn't matter to me. But that is the order of things in common law. Common law is unwritten law. I know, and Dean knows, and I'm sure you do too, it's not okay to murder, it's not okay to rape, it's not okay to rob. We know what the laws are. You don't go hurting people. We have to live on this planet together. We help one another. Some of the examples, and I'm not going to list them all, but some of the examples of the way the government defies this book is every time Obama talks about gun control. Well, gun sales spike, and my personal opinion is that this man owns a lot of stock in the gun companies because it seems like every week he's talking about gun control, and those sales spike. Anyway, if you go back to Article 1, Section 8, I'm sorry, that Dean just read, you'll find out, for example, they don't have the authority to coin money. The Federal Reserve doesn't have authority to coin money. Yet the government gave that away. In that book, under the Article 1, Section 8, it doesn't say that the government has the authority to give it away, nor do they. Now, if they did that, people say, well, that's unconstitutional. Well, you have to know what unconstitutional means. It means They violated the law. If you violate the law, you break the law. There should be consequences for your action. They should be punished for this, but we the people allow it to continue. A good example of this is there are 70 federal agencies today that are operating unlawfully outside Article 1, Section 8. They have no authority to even exist, but they do because the people haven't said anything. There are 73 armed federal agencies in our government. Now I ask you, please, somebody explain this to me. The 73 armed federal agencies that we have, why are they armed? They're our employees. They work for us, we the people. Why are they armed, number one? Okay, we have the military, which is the biggest in the world, or the most powerful in the world, however you want to look at it. We have the military to protect us and to protect members of our government. Why do we need 73 armed agencies? So they can kill citizens like they did this past week out in Oregon? When an unarmed man was murdered by him? Is anybody going to do anything about that? It's up to us to. You have to take the law, not take the law into your own hands. The law is your law. You have to stand up for it. You have to exercise your rights. And this is something also that fits in there because it talks about the military and the funding of it every 2 years. A lot of people don't know this. We've got 900 military bases in 153 countries around the world. Why? Whose freedoms are they protecting in 153 countries? I thought we, the American people, were paying for a military to protect our rights and protect its citizens, not the people of the world. When did we become an international police force? And believe me, all this stuff has gotten away from me too. I'm not pointing fingers here, but what I'm saying is until the people stand up and get united, we're in big trouble. And if I can give you an example of exercising your rights, and I'll use Dean. If me and Dean are having a conversation and I say, hey, Dean, shut up, I don't want to hear from you. And he sits down and he doesn't say anything, well, guess what? He doesn't have the right to speak freely because I just took it from him. It's no different than the government saying, hey, Dean, shut up and sit down. You have to say, no, I have something to say and I'm going to be heard. Exercise your rights, all of your rights. The right to travel, the right to own a gun. They're not government rights that they can do it. And Mr. Obama, you can't take my right away. You can't. You can kill me, and I'm sure you wouldn't bat an eyelash, but you're not taking my rights away. Not this guy. I'm fighting for my rights. I'm going to stand up for my rights. I'm not advocating any type of insurrection or revolution. I'm telling people, stand up. This is America. You wrote this book for the government to obey, not the other way around. We're all civilized people. I don't see anybody getting killed around here or crimes, and there are crimes happening, don't get me wrong. But what I mean is, right now, the government is initiating all this problem in the country. You can't do this. The EPA says you can't do this, and BLM says you can't do this. Another organization says you can't do this. Wait a minute, it doesn't say it in this book. This is the supreme law of the land. Why is this happening? We have to wake up. We have to read this document. And I know this is public access TV, and I know the viewing audience isn't in the millions, but it could be. Please, tell people to watch. It's important what I'm saying, not because it's coming from my mouth. I'm a firm believer that this document, or the ignorance of this document, is going to put this country under. And I believe also that there is time to save it. So I ask all of you, please, read this document. I'll tell you quickly, you can get it free. The Heritage Foundation is one that you can get it from. Let me see. Get your U.S. Congressman, U.S. Senator, they'll give it to you. Generally, you might have to pay 50 cents or $1. You can buy them for as little as 30 cents on the Center for Constitutional Studies. These are all internets. I usually buy them by the 100 and give them out. If you appear at one of our meetings at 125 West Clark Street in Manchester, I'll be happy to give you one if you want one. Just don't take it for bragging rights. Read it. If you don't know what's in here, you don't know if your rights are being taken away. And I want to talk about that. I'm going to turn it over to Dean. But it's very important that I talk about the TSA and federal and state buildings and how your rights have already been eroded and you don't even know it. Or you may not know it. I'll turn it over to you, Dean.
Well, you brought up a question of why do we need 70 some armed federal agencies, and it brings up a good point of in the last few years, for some reason, they've been stockpiling ammunition. They've bought over a couple billion rounds of ammunition. Makes you kind of wonder, well, what do they need that for? What are they planning? Why are they changing the pattern of, they don't need the ammunition to practice, that's for sure. So it begs the question, why is our federal government stockpiling ammunition and armament and arming 70 agencies? They might want us to think that there's a huge threat of terrorism in this country, but doesn't really pan out that way. So you wanted me to read, well, let me give you this quote. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. That's Thomas Jefferson. And another one, you want me to go to the 10th Amendment, Richie?
Oh, yeah, to back up the Article 1, Section 8, yeah.
Yep, so the 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So what that's saying is that the 18 enumerated powers that we read are the powers delegated to the federal government, and the rest remain for the states and the people. And Richie was commenting on common law. Common law is synonymous with natural law, and it's been around for a very long time, starting around the time of the Magna Carta in 1215, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
And common law is common sense in a way, and it rather than a list of laws, it's more of a process. Common law is a process of providing structure so that people are left unharmed and liberty prevails. We'll get more into that in the future of common law. And we will also get into some of the answers to the questions that Richie asked. In particular, when did we become an international police force? And one of the questions that comes up every time we talk about the Constitution, because it is so obvious that our government is just completely trampling on the Constitution, is, well, how do they get away with that? How does that happen? And one of the answers to that is, Richie said, well, if you don't know your rights, if you don't know your Constitution, how can you stand up to protect it? So we, the people, have been asleep. And as Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for good people of good conscience to remain silent. And that's pretty much what we've done in this country. And at this point, they've gotten such a foothold that intimidation prevails everywhere. So what we need is for people to wake up, learn your rights, learn the founding of the country. We are going to cover a couple things next week as well. If you're curious as to how we've reached this point, we're going to go over point by point in a timeline of how our country has reached this point, and we're going to look at, if you may consider that we didn't achieve complete independence from the British back at the Revolutionary War. They still had their hand tied into a couple things, and we're going to go over that. And we're going to take a look at, who runs this country, who owns it, what's the structure. It might surprise you, and we're going to push some of your belief paradigm on some of these things, but our country is run by corporations, and they're not public corporations, they're private corporations. They are for-profit corporations, and they're not owned by we the people. They're owned by private interests, most of them foreign. So we have a lot to do. We have a lot of educating to do and a lot of waking up to do if we want to maintain what has been the finest country in the history of the world. Our goal, Richie and I, we're committed to restoring the Republic, and we hope that you will keep tuning in and keep joining us to do that. Is there anything else you have, Richie?
Oh, yeah, I have plenty.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the things that I wanted to get in, because it's been bothering me for a long time, I haven't flown since 9/11. and I will not get on an airplane. The reason I won't get on it is because the TSA in particular is violating my rights, my Fourth Amendment rights to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. I won't get on a plane. And some of you can disagree with that or not disagree with it, but if every time you get on an airplane, walk to a federal state building and go through their metal detector, you're violating your own rights. You're contributing to the demise of this country, whether you want to admit to it or not. But I guess I take exception to the fact with the airlines because the government created this TSA, which they don't have the right to do under Article 1, Section 8. They just fabricated it. Either illegal organization or unlawful. However, the airlines are not owned by the government. So why are they providing security for them? I need that question answered by the government, too. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I'd like to see it. We're probably going to pick up on the Constitution next week because there's so much. At least we'll start off and we'll see where it goes. And then Dean's going to talk about the calendar of events that led us to this point from 1776. So if you got anything else to add, we've only got a few seconds here left. But
Yep. Well, the good news here is that there is a legal and lawful solution to these problems. And again, I'll bring up the National Liberty Alliance, which is focused on constituting the common law grand juries. Common law grand juries are a tool separate from government for we the people, again, starting back with the Magna Carta in 1215. And the common law grand juries is a tool for us to manage and root out corruption in our governments. And we need to restore those. It was taken away from us in 1946
yes,
through a footnote in a legal proceeding, and somehow they got away with that. And again, we didn't stand up for our rights. So over the next few months, our goal is to educate you and share some in-depth insight into many of the issues that have brought us to this point. We do believe that our country is in great peril. We are very near, and there is many people out there talking now about our currency collapsing. And so we hope that you will join us. Again, our YouTube channel is
early this morning about the federal arrest of 14 others, or 19 total, who are being charged that are linked to Nevada Bundys, the Cliven Bundys, the ranch, the whole situation that went down in 2014. Well, they've issued their, quote, indictment, and they have arrested 14 others. I believe that is the correct number. But they were all linked to the standoff with the government there. Now, the reason that I want to bring this report to you is, look, first of all, I don't know every dot and tittle that happened down there. I wasn't personally there. But I can use this and use documentation and say, hey, look, this is where I believe we're headed. This is what I could see. And what I foresee in the future is a problem because, here we are, and it's almost, the freedom and liberty movement is getting painted in a wrong light. And I've done numerous reports how, the Department of Justice wants to work with organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center, who has Christian names on there simply because they're against homosexuality. They're not against the person, they're against the sin of homosexuality, but because of that, they've been listed as, quote, terrorists and extremists on their list. And here we have an upped event in which people were rounded up and taken to jail for, I believe on the indictment, it's 16 different indictments. Now, I don't condone or agree with anything that happened at the Bundy Ranch or anything that happened in Oregon. Like I said, I wasn't there. And I know there were good people, good things, bad things that went on there. And that's just the truth of it. But either way, what I'm going to say, and I don't want to get into the details of that. I've gotten into that on other videos. But the FBI is going to use this, I believe, to 100% demonize the liberty movement. And that's what I foresee coming. And I have to ask the question, is this some sort of beta test? Beta test meaning, are we in the final stages or the beginning stages of something that's going to be carried out in the near future? And I think it's, definitely something worth asking and addressing. I mean, we are living in crazy times, especially taking into consideration some of the executive orders that our government has, especially the right-wing extremist document, Project Megiddo document, some of these documents that specifically target the ideology of Christianity, the ideology of patriotism, the ideology of, quote, anti-government, or just because you don't believe, the government's going the right way, because you believe in the New World Order and end-time conspiracy theories. Now, and I'm not anti-government. I believe we should have government in play. I just don't believe it should be big and corrupt. That is my personal belief. I've said that many times. But I have to say that it's just rattling to me what is going on. And I've read I've read the indictment that I'm going to show you here in a moment, but some of it is taken out of proportion. If any of you have ever had a run-in with the law or know somebody who has, a lot of the times you could do one thing wrong, and maybe you did really do that one thing wrong, but you've got like 20 different counts or 5 different counts that have been pinned on you. Well, this is what I'm seeing on the indictment. There's over 16 different counts. But not to say that I agree or disagree with them or on what side or this side. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, some of it was wrong. Some of it, you don't harass, police or anything like that. But at the same time, if you're fearful for your life, so there's things to take in mind that way. But all that to say, I think the best thing to do is let's get into this indictment so you can see what's going on and be prepared, because we are truly being demonized in the patriotic movement, regardless of the fact that, we're not using violent means. I would never use violent means, but I have to be real careful with what I'm reporting, because they are truly targeting people simply for what they're saying, and so we can kiss our freedom of speech goodbye, basically, and that is what I see now. Let's get into that indictment. All right, so here is the indictment document. You can see a piece of it below, but I'm going to take you through this as best as I can. Here are the plaintiffs versus, and here's your whole list of names: Cliven, Ryan, Eamon, Bundy, Ryan Payne, Pete Santilli, he is the journalist, Melvin Bundy, David Bundy, like the whole Bundy family there, Brian Cavalier, Blaine Cooper, Harold DeLemus. Harold DeLemus, actually, I believe he worked with the veterans on Donald Trump's campaign. Makes me, anyway, want to go more. But Eric Parker, Scott Derixer, Richard Loveland, Stephen Stewart, Todd Angle, Gregory Joseph, Michael, and Jason Woods. There is that, and here's all the different violations against them, as you can see. But they give a brief summary. Let's, I've kind of done this side on the Bundys, but let's hear about what the FBI has to say, and it says the superseding indictment resulted from a massive armed assault against federal law enforcement officers that occurred in and around Bunkerville, Nevada on April 12, 2014. The defendants named herein planned, organized, and participated as gunmen in the assault, all in order to threaten, intimidate, and extort the officers into abandoning approximately 400 head of cattle that were in their lawful care and custody. One of the goals of the conspiracy was to thwart and seize the removal of defendant Cliven Bundy cattle from federal public lands. Bundy had trespassed on the public lands for 20 years, refusing to obtain permits and pay the required fees and grazing on the cattle on his land, which is not mentioned here. They continually upped the price, so much so that 50 other ranchers and were knocked off the land. Keep in mind, this is a one-sided report. I'll leave a link below for the Bundy side, and then you have this side. But there's a lot more to it than what you're seeing here. I mean, there's only so much that I think people can deal with till they get to the point where this is crap, and they get upset. There were accounts of BLM burning the land and yada, yada. But nonetheless, it goes on to say in 98, Bundy was under federal court to remove his trespass cattle. On an order he refused. In 2013, they issued 2 more and declaring that that's what they wanted to do. He refused. It was known as Operation Impoundment, began in April 2014. While it was going, Bundy and other leaders organized through deceit and deception to recruit gunmen and other followers for the purpose of using force, threats, and intimidation to stop the impound flooding. The internet, obviously, that can be used against you, just to FYI, with false and deceitful images and statements to the effect that law enforcement officers were abusing Bundy and stealing his cattle, deliberately lying. And leaders and organizers plead for gunmen and others to travel to Nevada to stop the abuse by making a show of force against the officers in order to get them to back down and return cattle. By the morning of the 12th of April, hundreds of people, including gunmen armed with assault rifles and firearms, had to travel to Bunkerville, becoming Bundy's followers and aiding him to get his cattle back, basically. And I'm sorry if I'm reading this fast. I just don't want, a 30-minute report for you guys. But on April 12th, Bundy organized his gunmen and the followers and gave them the order to get the cattle, directing the crowd of hundreds to travel more than 5 miles to the site where the cattle were corralled. One of the group followers kept law enforcement officers occupied at the main entrance by threatening. Consisted about 200 people, led by Ammon Bundy. The followers in the Walsh included a significant number of gunmen brandishing their assault rifles in front of the officers. And it kind of goes on about some of the officers were threatened and they felt like their lives were at stake, but I'm sure other people on the other side did as well. It also gets into, there was people throwing rocks, which are wrong. There's a right way to do something and a wrong way to do something. And, there was bad things done here on both sides. Having seized the tactical advantage, Bundy and about 200 of the followers pressed forward against the watch, demanding that the officers leave and abandon the cattle, threatening by force. Since they were outnumbered 4-1, they decided to return the cattle to Bundy. Since then, they have organized and armed security patrols around the area. Then it gets into the defendants, but that's kind of it in a nutshell, the FBI's side of the story. And, I don't agree, again, with everything that was done, at Bundy Ranch or, with the FBI. I don't think that the BLM has the right to harass people on their property and say, and take it over per se. But this is exactly what they've done. There's lots of trouble over there with the BLM and the ranchers, consistently, so much so, like I said, they've ran out 50 different ranchers. But there were people at the ranch who were protesting peacefully and others who were not. So, but with that in mind, what I want to say too is with this beta test, or that I believe how it normally starts is they will, and I had my notes here, but they will start arresting people who are honestly guilty, and then it just moves on to there for those who were conspirators, those who had things to say. So it goes on to arresting the actual guilty people. To let's add this and this and this and this and this. Oh, there was a journalist there who had reported freedom of speech, right? We have the right to report. We have the right to see what's going on. But see, this journalist didn't stay in the circle that he was supposed to stay in. Therefore, he's a conspirator. And that's where it starts going to that extent. And so it starts with the actual guilty and starts including people who are not guilty, who hadn't done anything wrong, except for maybe talk about it or side with it or say one thing or another. And that's why I just have to really be careful as a reporter because of that. And, we do put our butts on the line, but just because, that's how it happens. It starts with the guilty and then goes on from the not so guilty to the not so guilty and then they demonize it. They make them look bad and you'll eventually be painted in a bad light. But I'm not going to go over this whole thing with you. That is not my purpose today, but there's lots of reports. It says, what they're guilty for, and all the different counts that are being held against them. But it really gets into some detail. I'm going to leave the link for you guys to check this out so you can read it for yourself. But a lot of it is Bundy's carried out threats and threatened with force. Like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened. Both sides of the story. But nonetheless, you know, we just need to be careful in the times that we live in. So there's that. And if you want to check out the counts, I believe it starts, let me scroll here. On page 37. Here's the first count. Conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States of America, and it lists all the ones guilty of that. Then it goes to count 2, conspiracy to impede federal officers. There is your count 2, and it goes all the way through count 16. All right, now here is a report that I wanted to show you. This is on freedomoutpost.com, written by Tim Brown just a few hours ago. He's got additional information on this event. Feds arrest more Bundy Ranch patriots, including Trump campaign official. So here's a great report on it. Also on InfoWars, they were there. Let me show you the link. Roundup of gun activists, controversial arrests continue in wake against government corruption. There's a pretty awesome video here that I highly recommend you guys watch as well. All this to say, I think they are trying to make a statement. Number one is they want to take away our guns. That's always a law, that they do not want us to have guns. And number two, they're trying to make the statement that you mess with us, this is what happens to you. So I do believe that they're going to be used as examples, as people in the past have. There's many cases of things that have happened in which the government has used this situation or that situation to send a message to the population that if you stand in this way, if you go against, say, BLM, you don't want your ranch taken, or you do this, or you stand against government corruption, this is the wrath you will face. Jail time, persecution, and, you know, it's a scary line. And we're headed into some pretty scary times. So keep it all in prayer. That's my best advice right now. Keep it in prayer and be ready, because hopefully there will not come a time where they start rounding up a bunch of people. And the reason that I do talk about that is because it is a real threat. Look, it happened in other countries. It's not historically impossible. It's never happened before. Why would we talk about it? It has. Political opposition specifically has been targeted on numerous occasions. Even religious groups have been targeting many different types of religious groups, not just Christianity. There's other types that have been targeted in history's past. We know the Jews were targeted. So lots of things to think about there. And that's why I pay attention to what's going on with the news, and you guys pay attention. It's like, look, this is what happened. You decide what you foresee for the future and be ready, because I think that it really is a dangerous line that we're seeing in our country, and it makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. And a lot of things I personally believe were taken overboard. I know people in this particular case were arrested for taking photos and, silly things. And there might be more to the story, like I said, but nonetheless, I just see it as, a warning from them saying, you mess with us, this is what happens. And where we go from there, well, prayer for now. So hopefully you guys are prepared for what's ahead. Just want to tell you real quick about my sponsors. I know you guys hear about them often, but I truly do believe in them. GetTheTea.com from Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com. I personally use the products every day. I've been drinking the tea for quite a few months now. I'm feeling better. I'm not all corroded in my digestive system, and it's really a great tea. It does what it says. It shouldn't even be considered a tea, but it's direct detox. It is a detox, and it works. It works better than any detox I have done. So check that out at getthetea.com. Also, if you're not prepared with food, now is the time to get prepared. I use foodforliberty.com/Haven. They are my personal choice, my recommended choice. They sell all kinds of bulk
Are you?
All right. So anyway, there we go with that. And, I've always had a problem with, there's nothing wrong with being spiritual, but I have a problem with religion in itself. I guess it's probably because I grew up in kind of one of these strange Christian cults. We eventually left it, and it was just a horrible experience as a child being involved in it because, I won't even go into all of that. But, if you read the Bible literally, and, I have a really old Bible, and I don't just read that, I read other religious texts and all that kind of stuff. And if you really take any time to discernitively pay any attention to it, it was pretty clear the last time, the God that everybody talks about ever had anything to say, he decided to set a bush on fire. I don't know how many thousands of years ago, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Yeah, I skipped 11, but anyway. But, if you really read any of these texts, I used to work in this restaurant, and I'd have my break at the same time every day. And then there was this Catholic missionary across the street, and apparently the father, the Catholic father, he had his break at the same time. And it just seemed like every day we'd just meet up and be sitting at the bar at the same time, and we get to talking about this stuff. And, and he kind of felt, I kind of absorbed his ideas. He absorbed my ideas. And, it just kind of came down to, God said man has free will. And he gave dominion upon this earth to Lucifer. Now, that's a whole other conversation. I mean, I personally think Lucifer was his wife, and the earth was the part of the divorce settlement, however you want to put that out. I don't care. It's really not part of this conversation anyway. But, really, God doesn't care. It's like two football teams praying to God that they're going to win a game. He doesn't care. In the scheme of the universe, everything that's going on here doesn't matter in the scheme of the universe. If God exists and he's running a universe, and I have an impossible time believing we're the only living human beings on the planet. That's absolutely impossible for me to imagine, or excuse me, the only living intelligence in the universe. Excuse me, I misphrased that. That's an impossible thing for me to even try. Excuse me?
Oh, I thought you weren't going to make me.
I'm on air?
Oh, sorry.
All right, so anyway, that's impossible. So in the scheme of the universe, our little battles between this country and that country, and this group and that group and all these groups just really doesn't matter in the scheme of things. So, I understand that it might make people comfortable to pray to their God, but there's like a bazillion of them on this planet, or whatever their religious God is, and there's like a bazillion of those on this planet, and all that kind of idea. And I go back to the old Joe thing. Just the facts, man. Just the facts. Because no matter what we do, I don't think any kind of Lord God Savior is going to come rushing in with his sword to try to fix this. We are given free will. It says it quite clearly. So we shall do what we shall do, and it's been like that all through history. And it might give you comfort, but I don't think it's going to actually affect any kind of change. But anyway, on to this next bit. This comes from Paul Begley. It's a little bit long, but it has to do with this TX-68 asteroid. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with that thing.
Serious? Are you serious? Are we ready for a close encounter from deep, deep, deep space? Well, asteroid 2013 TX-68, let's just call it asteroid TX-68, is set for a close encounter with Earth. Astronomers say large asteroid is heading for a close encounter with Earth and could come closer than some orbiting satellites. Are you serious? This is getting too close. And what is it bringing with it? Is some of these asteroids, some of these meteors that have been hitting the Earth here in recent days, including the one, a big one exploded over the Sweden, a huge one over Sweden, and a huge, gigantic one over the Atlantic Ocean, thank God, because you think that Russian asteroid was big. Remember that one in February of 2013? That thing was only released, I say only released, an explosion in our atmosphere at 13,000 tons of TNT. But the one that exploded over the ocean was huge. It was twice that much power. Good news is it was way out there over the Atlantic. Now, at the same time, this asteroid is bringing meteors with it. Who knows what's going to come flying off that thing, either before it or after it. Now, tomorrow is March the 5th. Now, that was the original day that NASA told us that asteroid TX-68 was going to go by the Earth in a near miss at 1.3 lunar distance, or 300,000 miles. Well, now, of course, thanks to the European Space Agency and Mike from around the world, VP Earth Watch, and others are telling us that this asteroid is actually going to be way closer, more like 9,000 miles from the Earth. And the European Space Agency says it will happen on March 7th, not March 5th. Now, NASA has come back and said, no. It will be. You're right. It's going to be really close, really close. They said 19,245 miles from the Earth, and now they're changing it again. Let me read. So this rock, which is 30 meters wide or 100 foot wide, TX-68, spotted 3 years ago by astronomers in the United States, scouring the skies for potentially threatening near-Earth objects. Because the asteroid was tracked for only 10 days, its orbital path is uncertain. Can I say that again? Are you serious? Did you just say, did I just read the orbital path is uncertain? Experts believe it will make its closest approach to the Earth Sunday, March the 7th, although the forecast might be 1 or 2 days out. What? I mean, NASA basically doesn't know its exact path, how close it will be, even what speed it's traveling, because now they don't know which day it's going by. Now, get this. Calculations show that the TX-68 asteroid could shoot past the Earth well within the ring of geostationary communications inside the beltway of the satellites orbiting the Earth. Now, the GPS satellite that we all depend on these days, actually sets at 22,300 miles from the surface of the Earth, okay? This asteroid's coming closer. This asteroid is coming much, much closer. And this is crazy. I mean, this is really, really insane. And so the U.S. astronomer Sean Marshall from University in New York, who studies near-Earth objects, such as comets and asteroids and meteors, should this asteroid, he says, come closer than the geostationary satellites, it would be a rare, and I mean rare, occurrence. This only happens about once per decade. Folks, this is getting quietly. This has been kind of hid from the public. Shh. Killing us all.
All right, I've had enough of that. All right, hold on. Stand by. All right, gone.
Wayne Madsen's report on Rubio and being arrested in that park at night with another man, and like so many other Republicans are, Democrats, has now made the National Enquirer. Newsweek has attacked yours truly and others. I ran with Madsen's reports in the last few months because I found Madsen to be really, really, a real reporter who actually goes out and knows what he's talking about. He doesn't make stuff up, and he didn't say Marco Rubio was doing this. He got arrested with a man by a bathroom at a park at night. And the guy he got arrested with ended up being a guy that ran a house that shot gay porn and porn cams and other stuff. So, it's like Barney Frank living in the house that's running an underage male brothel with 14 and 15-year-old kids. They were about to indict him, and he went on the House floor, and he said, and this is a famous clip, we can pull it up. He said, "If you go after me, everybody goes down." And you ask yourself, why is it so many Catholic priests turn out to be pedophiles? Why is it so many members of Congress do? Are there really that many pedophiles in society? No. In fact, they've done big university studies. Less than 0.5% of people are attracted to prepubescent folks. Now, they call pedophilia, being attracted to a 16-year-old girl if you're 18 and then they indict you. That's not pedophilia. And of course, those are the easy ones. Most of the prosecutions are some 19 or 18-year-old guy who was a high school senior when another girl was a freshman. He knows her, been dating her the whole time. He gets out of high school. He's still dating her when she's a sophomore or a junior, and then he goes to jail. So that's not pedophilia. And so the pedophiles try to push stuff saying, it's unfair, it's unfair. Europe and other areas want to go down to like age 10 or 11. No, that's pedophilia. But teaching all this garbage in schools is, as well, targeting and sexualizing children. So it's all super, super bad news. And it's a cult. Whether it's Boys Town or whether it's Penn State or any of these places, pedophiles know that that's a crime almost too big to fail when it's in government. And so if they can get in and get other people in, they recruit their own people as a cult in to take over government. Now, that's what institutions and groups that aren't cults do. The Irish felt like they were mistreated and stuff, and they weren't in a lot of areas, so they started migrating to certain areas, electing their own people, and then basically creating police departments that were almost exclusively Irish. You've seen the Mormons that are less than 1% of the population, and they've got people all over the House, all over the Senate, something like 20% of FBI agents, NSA, Mormons. And the grassroots Mormons seem to be really conservative, patriotic, great people. I wonder why so many others are so liberal, when it comes to the Senate and the House. And and Harry Reid and Orrin Hatch and all these other people. I'm not getting off on a jag about Mormons, because I found that grassroots Mormons are probably the most patriotic group out there aware of what's going on. But it is kind of a paradox. I want to ask Joel Skousen, who's a senior Mormon, sometime about how he deals with this paradox. But it just shows how groups try to get in to secure that they won't be persecuted, and then they end up taking over. Well, in the case of the pedophiles, that is a cult. And we're dealing with a pedophile cult worldwide. So I don't sit there and bash the Catholics. The pedophile cults took them over. And the pedophile cults will take your society, your school, your police department over if they can, too. They're one of the most evil, insidious groups. And now they've got sexualization of children sold in the name of openness, in the name of political correctness, in the name of not hurting people's feelings, to have them indoctrinate your 5-year-olds about transgender, gay, straight, all these sexual acts. That is outrageous. I mean, if you or somebody else walked up to a kid in a grocery store, started talking to them about sex at age 5, you'd be arrested for indecency with a child and trying to exploit a child and all the rest of it. You should be. But when the state does it in plain view boldly, look how far they've already gotten. Brain force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it.
Hey YouTube, Bear Prepper here. I was asked from one of my subscribers on how to do chili, and I recommend that you do your meat and tomato in one and your beans in another. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to can my beans. So what I have here is 4 pounds of kidney beans. I prefer kidney beans in chili. So all I've done is I've put in 4 pounds. I don't know if you can even see that. Maybe. I put in 4 pounds of chili beans, kidney beans, into a pot and covered them with water. Probably about 75% more water than beans. And I'm going to let that set overnight because I prefer the slow method. There's no sense in wasting money when sitting overnight is going to do. I also today finished cooking down my tallow. I combined it with that ground beef tallow that I made 3 or 4 weeks ago, and this was the corned beef brisket, or the beef brisket fat that I went ahead and cooked down. And as you can see, I got about a gallon. This is a pickle jar. I got about a gallon tallow, so I'm just about ready to start making my soap. Just got to pick up my temperature gauges so that I can make sure the lye and the tallow at the same temp. Also today, I've cooked some wheat bread. I made a baguette and 4 loaves of bread today, so it has been a very productive day. My son still hasn't moved my crock. I just stirred it yesterday. I ended up having to tape it down because of the dogs, and I got rid of the big soda jar. Let me see if I can get this off. Big soda jar. And did some mason jars. And so about every 3 or 4 days you're going to come in here and you're going to, before you touch anything, you're going to skim all that floating stuff off except the garlic. What happens is as the brine gets in there, any little bits of fat that were left on will start floating to the top. So just skim those off before you ever pull the plate out and move your meat around. So I'm going to do that, and we'll see you later. Okay, it's the next morning, and I've rinsed my beans, and then I've filled the pot up with water, about double what the beans take up, and then I removed all the floaters. And the reason you do that is because the floaters usually have something wrong with them, or they could, and so you just pull them out. There's usually not many. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil, and I'm going to cook it for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to start processing it. Alright, we've gotten to the point where we're going to can. And what I have here is I have my jars and my funnel, and you need your lids soaking in boiling water, your jar lifter, and your magnetic wand to get the lids out. What I've done here is I've rinsed the beans with very hot water just for a moment, and I've got my pressure canner on the stove getting heated up. I've got 2 things of water here. In the first one I use 2 tablespoons of salt. In the one in the back, because it's almost a gallon of water, I've used 5 tablespoons. And then over here I am actually using my American Standard cookbook for the directions on how to do it. So if that's what you're using and you've got it in your pressure canner cookbook, go ahead and use that. So let me set you down before you get dizzy, and let's continue to fill. And so all I'm doing is I'm putting my kidney beans in, and it's probably about 3 cups, 2.5. And you just want to fill it to right below that bottom rim on the jar. Now remember, these have cooked for 30 minutes on the stove to do the pre-cooking, so they're not going to expand much. And the reason you don't cook them completely is because then you'll have mush for kidney beans. And you don't want to put them in there raw because, you know, you'd have to judge, and maybe a quarter of a jar would turn out to be a full jar, and so you would just have a mess because the brine would be everywhere. Almost done. So this is 4 pounds of kidney beans, and it looks like we've made 13 jars. Yeah, about 13 jars with 4 pounds.
All right, we're on.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our brine and we're going to fill up the jars to the lower lip. Remember, this is salt water. And I'll probably be messy here because I'm trying to stay out of the camera's way. And these are just like the canned ones you buy in the store. So when you're doing your chili, you just open up a can of your chili you make and open up a can of your kidney beans, mix them together, and you've got chili. If you want chili dogs for hot dogs, you just open the chili. If you want some wonderful kidney beans in your salad, then open up 1 kidney bean. Remember, if you have any left over, you must store it in the refrigerator. That one was a little high. Whooshka. Hot. Let me switch hands. Hopefully I'm not in your way. It's really not too bad a process. I just soaked them overnight, rinsing them a few times, and then boiled them for 30 minutes. So at this point, turn these off. You want to wipe your rims. And you're just making sure that there's nothing on the lip that would prevent the seal. And since this is just water and salt is already melted, the likelihood of something being on there is very small, but always wipe it just to make sure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our lids on. Now, one of the things I like to do with my lids, you see how I've got 2 here? I always try to turn them opposite directions when I put them in the jug so that they come apart really easy, instead of having to pull them apart like those, and then you get water all over. We'll just slap these on. Always prepare more jars than you think you need. So this is good to know that it's 13 jars. So if you're going to do a 4-pound bag of kidney beans, you only need 13 jars. The only problem is they sell them in 12s. So the other choice you have is just can 12 of them. So that way you're doing a single case and then finish cooking the rest of them in a smaller pot and use them for dinner. You could probably, at that point, when you're making your chili, just throw that one in for your dinner that night. And pull out a cup of the sauce. Now, I'm not putting them on hand tight right now because the little lids are kind of flopping everywhere. So I will tighten them down hand tight as I put them into the pressure can. Now remember, you must pressure can beans. There's not enough acidity in the beans to water bath can.
Do not buy emergency food storage until you learn the biggest secret in the food storage industry. Knowing this secret is the key to finding delicious, high-quality emergency.
Hey YouTube, let's make some chili. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to brown my ground beef. And all you do is break it in the pan, brown it, and drain it. This is the same thing you're going to do to can hamburger. You're just going to brown it and drain it. You can also just boil some water and stick it in some boiling water, crumbled up, and it'll also cook that way. A lot of times if I'm doing 10 or 20 pounds at a time, I'll boil it. If I'm just doing like 5 pounds here for chili, I'm just going to fry it up. You can fry it up with some onions, but since I am using dehydrated onions in my chili, I'm not going to cook it with the onions. I'm not going to cook it with the spices. I'm just going to cook it up, just brown it, and then I'll start my chili in the morning. Okay, I changed my mind about the dehydrated onions. I went and got my onions out of the pantry and saw that I had a couple that were going bad. So I didn't want the rest of them to go bad. So I went ahead and used them. So I have 2 cups of chopped onion. Now I'm using the chili recipe out of the Ball Home Preserving book. Okay? And if you go to page 405, I don't know if you can see that, you can see the chili recipe. Now you can use your own chili recipe, but I thought I'd just show everyone how to do it with the recipe from the Ball Canning book. So I have 5 pounds of hamburger and 2 cups of onion. And I need to put in 2 cloves of garlic minced. Now I use the cheater method. I use chopped garlic from a jar. And I always assume 2 cloves. That's about half of one. You can never have too much garlic. I gotta go buy some more. 2 cloves of garlic. I love garlic. And remember, we're making a huge pot. There's 5 pounds of hamburger in here and 2 cups of onion. So be generous. Good morning, YouTube. Okay, let's go ahead and get our chili cooking. So what I've done is I've cooked the meat and the 5 pounds of ground beef, 2 cups of onions, and 2 garlic, whole garlic. So I use 4 teaspoons of ground garlic. So, and I put that in the fridge overnight because it was really late, and I just reheated it. It smells wonderful. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. So it calls for 6 cups of canned tomatoes with juice. I cheat. You can use crushed, diced, whatever you want. I just buy one of these big number 10 cans, because that's close enough to 6 cups. And dump it in. Next we're going to add chili powder. And I have a half a cup of chili powder here. We need 4.5 teaspoons of salt. Now because I'm canning it, I am going ahead and using canning salt. So 4.5 teaspoons of canning salt. I have 1 teaspoon of, it calls for cumin seeds. I'm using cumin powder. So either one will work. Let me get all that goodie out of there. Now, depending on how hot you want it, you can use fresh, you can use dried. I'm actually going to use sweet pepper, dehydrated that I did. I'm not one for really spicy hot stuff, but you could use cayenne pepper, you could use red pepper, you could grab a red chili pepper and finally chop it. If you're using fresh, remember if you include the seeds, it's going to be much hotter than if you don't include the seeds. And that's all the ingredients it calls for. So I'm going to go ahead and mix it up. Not sure how well this is going to show. And so you just mix it up. And we're going to let that cook for 20 minutes. And I'm going to cook it over medium heat. And I'm not going to start my 20 minutes until it starts to boil again. Because you want to get those flavors cooked in somewhat. Now remember, you're going to be pressure canning it. Oh, I'm spilling it all over my butt. So, it's going to get some more cooking time. So the flavors will really meld. Also, keep that in mind when you're using hot peppers, that you are processing them, quarts for 90 minutes and pints for 75 minutes. So, the hot will get hotter and really permeate everything. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't add it. I figure people can add their hot afterwards to their own chili. And I'm going to process this in quarts because a quart of chili with a pint of kidney beans is a great combination. Now, at this time, while this is doing this, I've got my jars in hot water. They were originally sterilized in the dishwasher, but remember, you're pressure canning. They're going to sterilize again in the pressure canning process. So I just get them hot because you don't want to put hot food in a cold jar. And then, of course, I'm going to put my lids in hot water, enough to soften them. You don't have to boil them. As long as the rubber gets soft, that's all you're trying to achieve. If you were doing a water bath canning, that's when you have to be really meticulous about sterilizing, because a water bath canner will not sterilize your jars. So that's the difference between those two processes. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this cook for the 20 minutes, and then we're going to ladle it into hot jars and start our pressure canning process. It's that simple. Hey YouTube, it's time to can the chili. It's been cooking for 20 minutes. It's very hot. I just took my jars out of the hot water and I have my lids, ouch, that was hot, and a hot water bath. All we're trying to do is soften these lids. Okay, so you don't need to boil them. So we're going to put our little funnel on and we're going to, ooh, that looks good chili. We're going to ladle our chili in there. Now, the recipe says it only makes 3 quarts. I don't believe that, but then again, I also used a number 10 can of crushed tomatoes. It's really good with diced tomatoes too, so. But always buy the number 10 can. It's the most cost-effective way to do it. And I'm all about saving money. And you want to fill them to the bottom of that little ring on the jar. So it's about 1 inch of head space. And that's what they call that space between where the metal lid goes and the product. It's called head space. So if you ever hear someone say you need 1/4 inch of head space, in jellies, that's what you would need, 1/4 inch of head space. In meats, it's 1 inch of head space. I'm not sure what other things do. It looks like I'm going to have a lot more than 4 quarts, so I may have to heat up some more jars. because I've still got half a pot of chili here. Now you could also just put this back on the stove instead of getting more jars and heat it up for dinner. But I want to show how we're going to use our kidney beans with this, so I really want to process it all. Now, we had salt in the recipe, so do not add salt to the top of these. You only do that with raw meats or cooked meats that are cooked with no salt. Now, what I'm going to do, since I've still got so much more, I'm going to have to do some more jars. So, I'm going to cover this up, and we'll go ahead and do this, and I'll finish this up and then go do more jars. So now what we do is we take a cloth and we wipe the rims. If you get something off, turn it, wipe again. And don't worry about the outsides here or up on the insides, because all you care about is where that red rubber hits. That's the most important part. So we're going to use, this is called a lid lifter, or a jar lifter, lid lifter, yeah, lid lifter. And so all we're going to do is that red piece in the center is the only part you have to clean. And you set it on top, screw it on, hand tight, very hot, and in my pressure canner, I'm going to take you over, I have about 2 to 3 inches of water. Okay, now before you call that done, you're going to take vinegar. I have some vinegar here. You don't need to measure it. Just pour some vinegar in there. And what that'll do is that'll stop your jars from getting cloudy. Vinegar's wonderful for that. And if your jars get cloudy, doesn't mean your batch is bad. It just means you might want to wipe off the jars before you put them in storage. And then we put them in the canner. And we're going to do all of these. And I always like to pull the lids off at the same time. And then screw them on. Because that keeps the heat in on the jars. Screw it on and then hand tight. Put it in. Screw it on, then hand tight. And everybody's hand tight is different. If you're a very strong guy, just screw it on. Okay? We're not trying to crank these down. We're just trying to make sure there's a really good seal between the glass and the rubber with room to expand, because it's going to expand and suck it in. Now when you're putting your jars in here, if you were using a water bath canner, you want to put empty jars to fill the spaces. But in a pressure canner, you don't have to do that. So just space them out. You really don't want them touching the sides or each other. And then we're going to put our lid on. I've got my rubber seal back in my lid. I'm going to line up my V's with the handle that has a V on it. Set it on. Twist the handle. And so now I'm just going to let it cook until steam starts coming out of here, and then let it cook for 10 minutes. Okay, we have our pressure cooker on. We have steam venting. There you go. Can you see that? Do you see that back nipple? Let me zoom it in. See how it's bubbling? Don't worry about that. Just a little bit of water bubbling. It's up. Steam is venting really strong and steady. We're going to let that go for 10 minutes. The pressure dial says 0. Okay? Okay, it's been about 6 minutes. And every now and then you can hear a sputter. That tells you there's still air in there. So let it keep going for the full 10 minutes. Notice the dial? It's moved up. It's now at, what? 1.5 pounds of pressure. Don't worry about it.
I can you?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
And so can you, next on Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen.
They say you are what you eat, so I don't eat chicken feet. But I love me some of Grandma's pickled beets. Well, cut it up, put it in the pan, throw it over your shoulder and see where it lands right here in Farmer's Kitchen. Maters, taters, beans and corn, the cows in the barn.
Housewarmings, meeting all of your outdoor living and fireplace needs. Kentucky Sheep and Goat Development Office. Try something different tonight. Rose Farm Supply. Family farming and commitment to our customers since 1982. Salt Rocks, the flavor of life. Woods Equipment Company has every tool you need to make working the land as rewarding as hunting it. Chrisman Mill Vineyards.
On the occasion that you have a jar that goes bad, it will let you know.
Yeah.
Gases and bacteria build up in there. It will let you know. Your smeller is your best friend. If you have something to go bad, you open it up and it's going to kind of jump out on you.
Right.
So that doesn't happen very often at all. If you follow the procedures that are very cut and dry, very simple, you're not going to have any problems. So let's help me list off the things that we've already canned this year. It's harvest time, obviously.
We did
What
cabbage.
We did cabbage. What else?
Green tomatoes. You did pickles, jam.
Strawberry jam. And we're going to, believe it or not, we're going to do all these things tonight. Plus, we're going to visit Lois, and she's going to show us how to pickle some green beans. Bobby Joe grew some honking big green beans this year that absolutely taste wonderful. And he's going to show us how to cut those off and put them in a quart jar and make some fantastic pickled green beans. But first, let's talk about the basics, okay? When it comes to canning, some things you can get by with a hot bath, or hot packing, some people call them. Generally, we do most of our tomatoes like this.
That's my favorite way.
That's
The
your favorite
old-fashioned
way. And how long does it take?
Depends on half hour, 45 minutes, some 10 minutes. Not that long.
It's not that long. We'll explain that process as we go along. If you are going to use your old-fashioned pressure cooker, there's a few things you have to remember here. There are things that are very vital before you get started. One of them is, this is your vent. You got to make sure your vent is not clogged. You can do that by holding it up to light or blowing through it. Make sure your seal, which comes in here, is not cracked or dried. That's your rubber seal that goes around the edge. And guess what? You're way ahead of the game. Now, do you remember, if you've ever been around the old-fashioned canner, the jiggling sound? That's when you know your pressure cooker is working. That means there's pressure behind this. And a lot of people are so thrown off by the 10 pounds, the 15 pounds, so on and so forth. That has to do with elevation. Check your own area to see what your elevation is and make sure that you have a good canning book to help step you through this. Now, that is 5 pounds. That's 10. And most things we do here in Kentucky are 10 pounds for X amount of time. For instance, green beans go about a half an hour generally. Now, we're also going to talk about this newfangled canner that I recently bought because I tried it out at a seminar and I liked it. Now, this doesn't hold as much. It's not, say, an industrial canner. You can't do a whole lot of stuff. You can't do green beans after green beans after green beans. But if you're the beginning canner, this is something you might want to consider. Now let's talk about cost. A pan?
$10, $15.
10 bucks?
Yeah.
This is a Presto, and I think we got, what, 70 bucks in there maybe. Now, if you move up to this, and this is a ball canner it's very costly. It's about $299. And you can find those cheaper sometimes. But if you have that kind of money and want to spend on this and do small batches, and a lot of people want to do small batches as things come along, such as strawberries. Strawberry jam is absolutely wonderful. We just made some the other day. You'll need your little jars for that. And the first thing that you have to do always is sterilize your jars. That's the first step before you do anything. You can boil those. With this canner, it actually has a process, a preheat process, where you set your jars in there and it sterilizes them for you. I like that.
Less mess, isn't it?
Less mess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things about this that I like, and we'll show you that in a minute. Tonight, we're going to make strawberry jam. We're going to show you how to can green tomatoes. We're going to make some zucchini sweet pickles. We're going to touch base with Lois, and she's going to pickle green beans. So it's all about canning tonight. All right, let's talk about our traditional pressure cooker. This is a Presto. Nikki's already put 2 quarts of water in here. We're going to put 1 more. This is your rack to set your jars on. Go ahead and put that last quart in. We're going to get this water boiling. That starts the process. So Nikki, if you'd like, grab a hold of that. The whole process is fairly simple. Obviously, we have to get this boiling. We're going to set that aside, but let's talk about this little outfit right here. Now, this guy right here looks like R2-D2. It's absolutely foolproof. This is just a cool little machine. For those of you who are just beginning, it's just basically touch this, touch that, touch the other. Here's what's great about this. This comes out. Your water line is in there. It's foolproof. Your rack is in here. It's got a setting when you begin that sterilizes your jars. It's called preheat. You put your jars in there, you don't have to worry about, boiling them and all that. There's a preset for everything on here. Now, another great thing about this particular canner, the thing I like almost the best about it, it has its own heat source. It's self-standing. So you could take it out on the back porch, you could take it out wherever and use it in that process.
Plug it in.
If you look on here, it's very simple. Preheat, jams and jellies, fruits, tomatoes, sauces, pickles, and sauces. So let's go ahead and fill this up to the watermark. Your watermark is just right here. Okay, now you simply take this over here and set it in here. Nikki, if you'll get me some small jars.
Okay.
Now we know we're going to do 6 jars in here. So we're going to put those in there. We're going to close the top, twist the top, and we're going to hit preheat and start. All right, let's catch up. We got a lot going on here. Big show, a lot of information. Our jars over here are heating up, sterilizing. They've only got a few minutes left to go. Our water is now boiling back here. You're getting ready to cut zucchini for the pickles? Now we're at the next step of this process back here. Okay, now we do our green beans the exact same as we do our cabbage. So we're going to go ahead and set our jars of green beans and cabbage. Put a teaspoon of canning salt. We poured boiling water over those. Once again, make sure your vent is clear and seal. Once that steam is coming out and you have the vent coming up and you let that go in for 10 minutes, then you set, only then do you set your jiggler on top. Now, we're starting our zucchini pickle slices.
And we need 2.5 cups of zucchini, about 2.5 cups of onion too. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut up whatever we like. We'll probably go a little lighter on the onion.
This is what you call the hot bath or hot pack. It's so simple. And the jars seal after that. So you cut those up, what, about 1/4 inch?
Yeah, whatever size you like. And we could even cut them in half if we want. It depends what size you want.
Now, if you want to compare these to something, these are going to be more like bread and butter, wouldn't you not imagine? All right, now where are we going from here?
Well, usually you could use a smaller zucchini bean. This was a little bit bigger.
Mhm.
We're going to go ahead and cut these down a little smaller so that they'll fit in our pint jars better. I'm actually going to quarter them if you're okay with that. And that'll be our little, it's almost like a bread and butter pickle, but made out of zucchini. So if you're trying to get rid of your zucchini, now we have too much zucchini.
Don't let anything go to waste.
Right.
Now we've shown our mock apple pie in the past, made out of zucchini. Take a look at this. Look at the shot. That's not apple pie. That's mock apple pie out of zucchini. Now this is a good time right here to tell you, if you have missed any shows in the past, go to timfarmerscountrykitchen.com. Check out our recipes, check out our canning, check out old time hog killings, rabbit butchering, whatever we might have done. And we got a lot of great stuff coming up. We got a lot of good stuff coming out of the garden still. And our sheep should be here shortly.
Yay. Let's go ahead and throw all these in. All right, I'm gonna move this aside a minute and cut up an onion. And it calls for an equal amount of onion, but I might go a little lighter on the onion. I'm just gonna leave these in pieces for us too, so when it pickles, if somebody likes to eat an onion.
You can't you?
You can. Can, you can do anything you want, really.
Our ancestors canned their own stuff. They had root cellars where they had, consistent temperature. That's one thing I'd like to do. Wouldn't you like to put a big root cellar inside of
nice.
over here?
I'm starting to cry.
You have to onionize.
We're gonna go ahead and set this aside, make our hot mixture, And I'll have you read that off to me, and then we'll make your
You pour that
strawberry
over that,
Right.
and then let it
We're
sit.
going to let it sit for an hour
Aha.
while we make your jam. How's
Gotcha.
that?
Sounds like a plan. All right. Now we have jiggle action on the top. Now is when we start our timer. All right, it's been 25 minutes. Let's turn this guy off. And now that will cool down little by little. All right, now you hear it slowing down, it's stopping the jiggle. Don't try to get that top off. Let it cool down in its own time. When it's done, that little pressure valve on the side will drop down. You'll know when it's done. Let it cool, let it be, it'll be fine. All right, back to the update. Jars sterilized for the jam.
Okay.
Our cabbage and beans are cooling off, and you're making the zucchini pickle slice sauce.
We are going to add 2 cups of cider vinegar.
Gotcha. 1 cup of sugar, 4 to 5 tablespoons of salt. Okay, 1.5 teaspoons of celery seed, and 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of ground turmeric. You can follow this little recipe, and it's not just little changes here and there, and you can basically make just about anything pickle-wise, bread and butter type. So you're going to bring that to a boil, and then pour it over, and then let it set for an hour.
We're going to set it aside.
All right, once you get this boiling, you just add these together, put a top on them, let them stand for an hour. All right, now Bobby Joe earlier this spring told me about his big green beans. And he doesn't exaggerate. He grows big tomatoes, big green beans. I remember last time we were over there, they had the jar of pickled green beans.
They were good.
Oh, and crunchy. Bobby's going to pick them. Lois is going to make them. Let's go visit the Ellises right now. We're back at the Secret Garden of Bobby Joe Ellis. Now, you talked earlier this year about your big green beans.
Right.
Now, I didn't doubt you because everything you said has been true, but man, I couldn't imagine when you said big green beans, these are big green beans.
They are.
Tell folks again what brand they are.
Vortex.
Vortex.
F-O-R-T-E-X. Vortex.
Now, it's canning time. Everybody's
That's
canning, and last year you said, try some of these. And Lois makes a pickled green bean,
Right.
which is delicious. So first of all, if you don't mind, Bobby Joe, pick us some of these monster green beans, and then we'll go inside and talk to Lois and see about getting a batch of these. Look at that. And the taste?
Tastes real good.
Tastes real good. Now that, I've seen some in here 12, 13 inches long.
One thing about it, there's no problem with the pick either.
Well, they need to be about, what, 5.5 inches to go in a quart jar?
Yeah, 5.5 inches of length for a quart jar.
Vortex.
Vortex,
With
right.
some stout beans.
Well, we'll go cut these up then.
All right. All right, now we took a quick detour on the way in with the beans. I want to show you what kind of tomatoes Bobby Joe grows. Big as my head. Look at that. That's a Bobby Joe tomato, and that's why we visit with Bobby Joe, because Bobby Joe knows gardening. Let me see your thumb. How green is it? It's pretty green. Yeah. Let's go cut them beans up. Hey, what do I have to do to get a slice off one of those tomatoes?
Go in the house and get this some
Get
in the
a
house.
knife. All right, sounds good to me. This is your outdoor gazebo office.
That's right.
This is where all the fun stuff happens. You've got this thing set up just for this, right?
Yeah. You don't have to cut each one individually. Cut them all at once.
So you know that you need a 5.5 inch bean, which measures right here. Now, who eats all the pickled beans? Is it mostly you or some other people eat?
The grandkids.
The grandkids like them?
Yeah.
So what do you call this little outfit?
I just called it a jig.
A jig, a bean
Yeah.
jig?
Matthew said, Dad, everything you do, you have to make a jig. That'll do it.
There you go. Let's move this operation inside. Back in the kitchen of Lois Ellis. Bobby's done the outside stuff, as usual. He does a good job. I like this. You got a thing going on here, just like last time. Now, you do something else that I really like. Last year we were sitting there, it may have been earlier this year, but I was over here and it was snack time, and you handed out these pickled green beans, which I've had before, but yours, I got to say, are really good. Let's talk about how that process worked. Obviously, he's just cut them, his big 45-inch beans.
Yeah.
He's cut them down into 5-inch groups, and where's it go from here?
Okay, I'm going to place them in the jars. I put them in as tight as I possibly can and keep them as straight as I can. Then I have a solution of vinegar, 2 cups of sugar, 2 sticks of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of pickling spice, 1.5 teaspoons of canning salt, 3.5 cups of water, boil that for 15 minutes and then let it simmer. And pour that hot solution over them, and then I power boil them in hot water for about 15 minutes. Just let them boil and give them a good hot bath. There you have your pickled beans.
All right, now this is how they look after they've set a while. The color, you won't see as much color in it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of people are going to ask the question, how long do you have to let it set? And you say as soon as they cool down, they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put them in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Let them stay nice and crisp.
Yeah, when you open them after you had your fill, put them in the fridge.
Can we try one?
Oh, this is funny. You know, I got this guy in our chat room right now that's playing games. You know, he hangs out in our over at the station chat room once in a while, and his nickname is Truth Bringer. And you know, he'll get in our chat room and play games like a 4-year-old. You know, it's like, yeah, but you know, I have a child. She's 19. She still plays the same game, but you know, it's like, but you said this. Let's do this exactly. You said don't do that. Okay, well, you said don't do that. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And then it's like, and then he wants to play games with the idea of freedom of speech, and you know, freedom of speech is fine, but you know, taking a shit on my coffee table is not cool. But whatever. And he does this over and over and over again. You know, he's very clearly, you know, if he isn't a paid agent, he's probably pretty clearly a rather mentally deficient person or whatever. So, you know, now he's moving from the Revolution Radio chat over to here, trying to piss people off with all his BS. And I was saying, you know, just don't block people because it's kind of a waste of time. They just make another channel and come right back. You know, the best thing you can do is just time them out. And, you know, every time they say something, just time them out. You know, do a timeout. So anyway, you know, you get to see this. You know, it's really funny with these trolls. You get to see this. You know, they do their best to try to make it look like, oh well, they're on your side, but you know, and then this, and then they will worm their way in, and then everybody's listening to them, and then now, oh, I got some attention now. Somebody paying attention to me, and then they start their bullshit. Doing that again. So, you know, quite honestly, Truth Blocker, which is actually Truth Bringer, you know, very clearly a troll with that anybody is paying attention, has always been a troll over at Revolution Radio. You know, just trying to play the angles or whatever. So, you know, you guys out there that you know, the mods and the YouTube channel, you know, you need to realize that blocking people doesn't get you anything done because they just make another channel and come right back. So just use the timeout. Use the timeout. That works better. And then, you know, and then they get bored with that and they'll go make a new, and then you just use the timeout again. It's way more effective because these guys want attention and they're not getting attention when they're in timeout. And then they'll come back and then they get some more timeout. So, you know, that is pretty much how that works. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of this, and I'm going to make some dinner and hit the rack here pretty soon. So I'm going to let this finish up, and off we go.
Yeah, sure.
I can tell by looking at it. Now, see, you only cook it that long, they retain some of the crunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Oh, man. Listen to this. Lois's pickle beta. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Again, I was talking about
let's go do this. It's gonna be fun. All right, I'm glad you stayed along for the ride. I already got things started here because it's gonna take a little bit of time. So I browned off, this was 6 pounds of ground beef. And it's 12% fat, so it's really pretty lean. I don't care if it's all in little tiny pieces. I'm okay with it being just the way it is. I've got my jars over here in the sink. I boiled them for 10 minutes, even though that isn't really that necessary. Because of this dry canning process, I want to be extremely careful. So it got boiled in water for 10 minutes, and then they've been sitting in boiling water in the sink until this got finished. And then they'll go into the canner. So these are 1.5 size jars, and I would get a slotted spoon or a spoon that has some way to let off the excess liquid. There's water and a little bit of fat. I highly recommend, I'm going to link the video for Cat's Cradle's video, and I recommend you guys go read the articles from Jackie Clay. Just really a wealth of information. And then you're going to just kind of get your little pokey thing, whatever you use, a non-metallic, so you don't scratch or chip a jar. And fill that up. I'm hoping this holds about a pound and a half. That's how I bought the meat, was figuring out, because usually you can get about a pound of meat in a pint jar. So you want to leave an inch of headspace, so I might have it too full now. And I don't want to pack it down too awfully tight, I don't think. I don't know. That looks about right, actually. Perfect. So, got there. A couple more little pieces. I'm excited. I love doing new projects like this. And then I'm going to now, I've got my lids and rings over there. Now I'm going to go ahead and wipe the rim down. I inspected all these jars. These are brand new jars, but I still inspect the rims really well and the jar for any cracks or anything. Because when you spend this kind of money, you want to make sure that your end result is going to be a wonderful product. So, I don't see food prices going down at all. I see them going up, up, up. So, got our lids and rings. This is going to be finger tight. And then I'm going to go put it in the canner. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to go put it in the canner, which is not up to a boil, but the water is hot. So we are keeping everything at a good temperature together. Okay, get another jar. I'll do another one for you, and then I'll just get the rest done. And then I've got another batch of meat to cook, because I figured it was going to take, well, I want the canner full, so I want 8 jars. And I bought 12 pounds of meat because I knew there would be some waste with liquid and fat. And, whoops.
Hey y'all, I'm Peyton Lambton with HGTV's Going Yard. A lot of people ask me how to create a gallery wall, and it's really
There we go. So this couldn't be easier. It's just that it's gonna, the timing for the canning process, because the Ball canning book does not have a time set for these 1.5 jars yet. I'm sure they will. Or maybe if I went directly to their site, I could find out. But I'm gonna be on the safe side and can them for the quart size timing. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Sorry. Okay. And there's that one. That one could use a little bit less, I think. There we go. Okay, and then wipe the rim. Make sure there's anything on it. And put that that back over there. Grab us a lid and a ring. And on we go. Finger tight. Hot. It's nice and hot. Okay. And in the canner. So I'm going to finish the rest of these, cook, get the second batch of meat going. I'll bring you back when I am putting the second batch of meat in the jars, and well, I'll let you know how much 12 pounds of meat. It may not do 8 jars. We're going to find out. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, here's another 6.21 pounds of meat. So altogether, let's see what the other one was. The other package was, well, it was over 6.19. So roughly almost 12.5 pounds of meat. And I just let this do its thing, go about my business. I got some stuff to put away from the store. So let this cook and get all browned up. And but why I brought you back is I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Cat's Cradle's video, a little bit more, I should say. Jackie Clay is who she refers us to, and it's she writes for a magazine called Backwoods Home, and she writes articles, and this is who Cat's Cradle trusts, and if Cat's Cradle trusts her, I trust her, because I trust Cat's Cradle. Anyways, it's a trust all. I truly hope that you guys go check it out, because being self-reliant is not just about knowing how to do a few things, but also opening your mind to learning how to do other things you hadn't really decided that was okay, or that you had never heard of. I had never heard of this method before, so I'm anxious to try it. And yeah, I could have done a small batch and tried it out to see if it worked. But worst case scenario is I've got canned ground beef for Sage, because in a situation I might need it. You never know. So anyways, I hope you guys stick around, because as soon as this is browned off, I'm going to go ahead. The last 6.19 pounds of ground beef filled 4 of those 1.5 jars. They're waiting in the pressure canner in the hot water, and they're just waiting for these guys to get in there, and we'll get moving on this. Okay, I'm excited. It's going to be amazing. Okay, guys, we're just about ready to load some more jars, but I did want to tell you, I had for a long time, and it bugged me how they could can this dried beef in here, and yet we were putting liquid in jars, and so now it's all coming full circle for me. So you could actually can dried meats as well. Pepperoni. This package of pepperoni is good, and you don't have to refrigerate it until you open it. So you could can pepperoni, you could can crumbled sausage, you could do all kinds of things with this type of application, and I'm excited to just open up a bunch of new doors.
Oh my God! I mean, are these people so new at trolling that they're that bad? I mean, it is literally freaking hilarious. It is so funny watching these guys do this crap. It is too funny. They create an account and then jump in and then I'll go look at them, and it's like 0 account, 0 content, 0 anything. They're just creating accounts to come over here and cause trouble. It's like, oh my God, yeah, exactly, dude. The short bus rejects.
I love this. I really, really like this idea. So my other 4 jars have been in the canner with the water just below a boiling temperature and the lid on to keep the whole canner warm. And now we're going to go ahead and start jarring up some more. I need to get I need to get my lids and rings back over here. They've been sitting, they're still in hot water. And we'll move that there. Okay. I'm gonna give this a jar. Asbestos fingers. Ooh. That was warm. Okay. And then we'll turn this down because it's ready. It's all cooked through. And like I said, I don't mind if it has big chunks. I can always break it up. They're not too big. I can always break it up when I do whatever application I'm going to do, whether it be spaghetti sauce, chili. Super excited. I hope you guys are excited as I am. This was about, this represents about $38 worth of ground beef. So I want it to be successful, that's for sure. I just kind of pack that down in there a little bit. I guess why you don't think of these things too is because we're really taught to get all the air bubbles out and all that. But there's no reason, if you don't pack it too tight, that the air cannot get out up through the meat. So there's that. Right, wipe the rim down hot. And let's get us a lid and ring. And I want to thank you guys while I have your attention. The video of when I didn't feel good and I made a little pot of chicken and dumplings out of food storage, or my extended pantry as I like to call it. I got, I think, 80 some responses, and there were back and forth 80, but everybody that responded wished me well and wished that I would get better soon. And so it was like getting all these get well cards and bouquets of flowers. It was just a really sweet thing for you guys to do, and I so appreciated it. When you're not feeling good, those things make you feel better. It wasn't good. I'm at the tail end of it though. I'm getting better. I just still, now we've got fires and stuff in the area, and it always messes with my sinuses just a bit. I think I'm allergic to the smoke. But draining off this liquid, and I'm gonna get busy. I love this. Love it. Now I wish I would have bought some sausage. The only thing I'm kind of concerned with, and I haven't opened up, I need to open up sausage to compare it. I would probably want to make my own sausage, so it didn't have the sage in there, because I hear that the sage will become kind of off tasting.
All right, so there's I put the link in the chat as to that, and then I'm going to run this real fast, and then folks, I'm going to get out of here. Dinner's ready, and I'm tired, and I'm getting hungry, and it's time for me to get out of here. So anyway, here it goes.
Good evening, America, and everybody else around the world. I get a lot of support from everybody. People from Sweden.
This is David Fry on the phone.
Something like that. Or Slovenia. So these are people sending letters from all over the world, and it's pretty cool. It's cool to see that great freedom is something that's worldwide. It's not just something that's tied to America alone. Freedom is a universal right. And so a brother started a patch. He's making patches in remembrance of our event, and so there's a lot of people that are not buying those, and it sounds like it's pretty cool. Chef 111, he's been a big support. He's been sending, broadcasting the videos, resending them out, and There was another guy, I think his name was something Truth. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's several of them out there, and I just want to say thanks for all your support for spreading all the videos and spreading the word. And so I just wanted to say thanks to all of you who are buying those, helping everything else. Everybody sending letters. They keep pouring in every day, and so it's good to see that there's still a lot of support going out there. So I just wanted to say my thanks, and Yah bless everybody, and hopefully we can all pull through this together and maybe make this world a better place for future generations to live in. So, yes, good night, everybody.
And I'm going to end this with what I'm doing right now. I'm decommissioning a freezer that is burning more energy than it's worth. So while I run this video and the video after it, I'm going to be making up my dinner and getting out of here. Alright, so we got this old freezer, man. It's like from the late 70s or something, and it's becoming quite the power hog. So I'm going to decommission this thing. This thing was full of stuff, veggies and stuff, and we got that freezer and it's just a lot of energy. So we got in there and cleaned it out and everything. Alright, we're on day two. I'll do my best not to catch Liz on camera. She probably don't want to be caught on camera. So we've taken all these veggies and we're doing a fall canning before spring even gets here. Having a big vegetarian dinner with some of it. We're gonna can these green beans.
We've got eggplant and peppers here that we've roasted, and we're going to add them to this tomato sauce that has clamatas, some garlic.
Kalamata olives.
All right, Kalamata olives.
They're going to think you're talking about clamato sauce.
Oh, sorry. Kalamata olives, a minced up garlic, and a bag of cherry tomatoes that I cooked down till they split, and I ran them through a food processor, and it's also got some cider vinegar and some sugar.
Right. And it's basically going to be just bruschetta. We'll add this roasted eggplant and peppers in there. And then we took everything else, and I pulled every dehydrator out that I have out. We got all these red peppers. You can tell we got tired of canning at the end of the year last year, and we started just chopping stuff up and throwing it in the freezer because we had freezer space. So these are all like assorted bell peppers. These are onions. There's 5 drawers of that. Over here in this one, this is the one that's going to make our eyes water. These are poblano peppers. And I'm not sure. I'm probably just going to either put these up, as just dehydrator. I might just turn it all into like a powder or something, and then I had all these jalapenos, so these guys are sitting here. I found these. They're sitting here in vinegar, water, salt, and garlic, and I'll be canning those. So
I'm making some Harvard beets.
Yeah, Liz is making Harvard beets because we found a bunch of beets we didn't know we had. Every now and then you got to get in and clean out that deep freeze. And lordy, that's a lot of freaking green beans that I kept. Every time I go digging, I find another one of our huge vacuum packed sets of green beans in there. So anyway, this is a good way to decommission the freezer and make it quit using energy. So that's kind of the gist of that. Although, excuse me. Now, I'm sure it was a mistake, and I'm waiting for the electric company to come out here. But, my electric bill, depending on just how hectic the weather is, depth of summer or depth of winter, is And, at the lowest, it's 180 or so, and at the highest, it's 500. Well, I got a $1,600 electric bill today. I'm sure it's a mistake, but we're running around checking all our powered devices, seeing what the hell's going on. I don't think that $1,600 is possible. I'd have to. I'd literally have to.
Million homeless people. We now have wars going on all over the planet.
Turn my heat on 90 and then open all the freaking windows. So anyway, thanks for checking it out. That's what we're doing today. We're catching up and decommissioning a freezer. Freezer decommission. We got that one thing full of peppers is done dehydrating. I'm still working on these onions. They're getting a little better. They're still pretty soft because they were really wet when we put them in here. These peppers, they're pretty much ready to come out of there. So that's kind of where we are on that. All those green beans, got a big canner out here. Beans been soaking all night in salt water, green beans. And I know it's a little dark in here. Hopefully you can see that. And then we're going to be, that's all those jalapenos we're doing. We're going to be making what's called cowboy candy out of that. What's in that, Liz?
It's got jalapeno peppers and onions that have been soaked in salt water. And to that, you add vinegar, sugar.
Is it, what kind of vinegar? Apple cider vinegar?
Hold on just 1 second.
I think it's cider vinegar. I'm not sure.
You can show me. I don't care. 4 cups sliced or chopped jalapenos, 4 cups sliced or chopped onion, 2.5 cups sugar, teaspoon celery seed, tablespoon canning salt, cup white vinegar, and a teaspoon yellow mustard seed. And you cook this up and it makes an absolutely delicious dish to eat with cream cheese and Ritz crackers. And the heat is cut down, so it's not hot. It's got a little bit of a bite, but not much. And everybody that tastes it absolutely loves it.
All right, apparently Chubbs wants to say hi. What are you doing, Chubbs? What are you doing? Say hi, Chubbs. Everybody loves kitties. What are you doing, Railback? All right, so what we got going on in here?
I am making the bruschetta.
Which is
you know more about it.
Yeah, it's tomatoes, sugar, a little bit of vinegar, garlic, basil, roasted eggplant, and peppers. And then you cook it down.
This is stuff that we took out of our freezer yesterday.
Yeah, we have a freezer that's starting to die, and I just figured no sense in it just burning up electric and not working real good. So.
And I will water bath candies for, what do you think, about 15 minutes?
I'd say 30.
30? Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's high acid, but it does have eggplant, which is starchy.
This is
so.
true. All right, I'm going to water bath candies for about 30 minutes.
All right, and
you helping me, Chubbs?
Yeah. And since we have, why are all my dehydrator trays on the floor to be squashed?
Because I set them down and I kept kicking.
Sorry, I'm making you dizzy as I'm running around now. So anyway, since these aren't going to snap, obviously, they've been soaking all night. Since they were in the freezer, they lost a lot of their fluid, so they had to soak all night so they don't swell in the jar when you can them, and then we'll just be putting these in the jars whole, and hopefully they'll hold. We've had some good and bad experience with canning green beans.
And I took my pan of apple butter and...
Yeah, she thought it was...
I turned it into apple pie.
Yeah, we thought we had apples in there, and or pureed apples, and it was actually apple butter. So she made apple butter pie. Good. So.
Let's hope so. It's an experiment.
So that's where we're at now, and that freezer finally thawed out, and there's a lake in my utility room.
That's cleaned up now.
Oh, okay.
Tell them that on this canning, I'm leaving at least 1/4 of an inch of headspace.
Right. Yeah, you want some dead space in that jar. You know, I've done all this before, but YouTube took my channel away when we had all the canning stuff on there, so we lost it all. So we'll be doing it as the year when we start doing fresh canning. Right now we're just doing
Leftover.
leftover and
Don't want to throw it away.
yeah, save a bunch of food we would have lost otherwise. Kind of canning. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I know this isn't exactly on topic of our usual thing, but it is kind of, because being prepared and learning food preservation is incredibly important.
I'm telling you what, there's going to be more of this than I thought.
Now this was, I saved about 2 years for this. The thing cost almost $400. But this is one of the most awesome canners I've ever owned. People get jealous when they see it. It doesn't even have a gasket in it. It is machined so well. You just put a little oil in there and set it. It's got everything. Hey Liz, where's the weight?
It's in the bottom of it.
No, it isn't.
It was when I carried it in here.
Did you take it out? Oh, it's under the thingy. Always scares me when I think we lost the weight. They're expensive. All right, as you can see, the kitties, everybody loves a cat video. This is Baby Bop. He's our little rescue kitty. He's not a rescue. Well, we rescued him from outside because he couldn't have survived. He's got one toe.
Yeah.
Everybody loves kitty videos. Yeah.
Stick that paw up there so they can see the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now, baby.
His mama brought him up from the woods, and he has one big toe instead of a whole foot, and he couldn't get out of his little box.
Come on, let's go. But watch how good he can go. Come here,
he goes pretty good.
Come here, baby. Come here, baby. He's waiting for some bread or some chocolate.
Yeah, he loves chocolate and bread. Never seen anything like it. There's Fat Santa. She don't care, do you? All right. Well,
Say hi, Santa.
Everybody loves kitty videos. And of course, the ever famous Coco. What's Coco doing? What's the Coco doing? Yeah, she's a good girl. She's getting a little gray in the muzzle there. Yeah, we've had her for a long time. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with updates later.